Hi, Alex here. Welcome back to the Christmas calendar tutorial series, and in this one we are going to take it from where we left in the last video, and we are going to talk about the Instagram API in Swift. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, in the previous video I have shown you what we are going to build out, and basically we took a tour of the starter project and created our Instagram redirect URI and Instagram client ID. Now in this one we are going to actually make the app come alive. We are going to code it out. But before we do that, if you haven't watched the previous video, go ahead and do watch it. But I am going to still show you what we are going to build out, and I am going to show you in the simulator here. So let me just take that there, and this is what we are going to build out. And this basically, and let me just show you the recording of my device here is let me just open that up. Great. So it's basically the same thing but with a twist. We can see the exact number of followers, and we can see what has changed before, well, over the time that we have last opened the app. We can refresh this if we wanted to. We can show the number of likes that our post has. Before that, we needed to go inside this post, and we can show the comments too on that post. Great. Now we can also log out, of course, and here are some basic data from our account, and of course there are more images, and I found that 20 images is the maximum that we can fetch right now, and this is a limit of course that Instagram puts on the API. Okay, now this is what we are going to build out. So we'll just make this rather yet, let me minimize this because we are not going to use it, and put the simulator there. Okay, now let me just go into our app delegate and show you that we are going to launch the profile view controller. And let me just make this a little bit bigger. There we go. So we are launching the profile view controller inside a navigation controller. So that is the profile view controller. But before we do that, of course, we are not signed in already. We are going to present the auth view controller, and that is done in the view will appear, I believe. Yes, if Instagram API is authenticated. Let me just comment this out. Again, this tutorial will not be about typing me all of the code out. I'm just simply going to comment out all of the elements. Okay, so what this does is checks if the Instagram API, if it is authenticated. If not, then the navigation controller should push the auth view controller. Now, Instagram API isn't found just yet, but let me just scroll all the way up and uncomment that one. So that is how easy it is to create an Instagram API. Instagram.shared. Again, Instagram is the Swift Instagram library that we have pulled in from our from the resources. Okay, so let me just build and run this, and if we are lucky, we are going to be presented with the login screen. Let's wait for that. Oh, I am not logged out, so first of all, let us just, for a brief moment, let me just uncomment the log out part of the code, and I will log out because I have already used this one. So profile view controller, the logout bar button tabbed. Okay, there it is. Let's handle that. Jump to definition, and here it is. Let's see if it works. No, it will not work because this logout isn't there. So let me just talk about the logout, because we are logging in, we need to log out, and it comes in real handy. So with the Instagram API logout, this returns a bool value. If it is true, then we can log out. If it is false, then we are not going to log out. And in the handle logout bar button item tab, that is the bar button item at the top right corner, we get back the result. That is again a true or a false. If the result is true, we are going to print out this message of successfully logged out, and we are going to push the view controller of auth view controller onto our navigation stack. So let's build that now and see that when we push the logout button, we are going to see the auth view controller, and that is it. So let me just build and run again, and now we will see by default this log into Instagram. Now let us just tap on there, but nothing happens. So let's take a look at that. Let's go into the auth view controller, and let's just scroll down, and here it is. The bottom tab is the one that we are going to call upon that button tab, and we are going to log in, and we get back a result, an error. Of course, the error, if there is an error, we return. Now, if the result is true, successfully logged in, and we are going to pop to our root view controller. So we are going to pop that auth view controller. If not, then fail to log in is printed out into the log. Now, what is this login? So let's jump to definition here. And let me just comment out these lines again. So again, we are grabbing the Instagram API, and we are logging in from our navigation controller. We need a navigation controller because we are going to present the view controller. It's a web view controller on our navigation tab, and that is the Instagram's login authentication scene. Now, here we have some scopes, and I have set it to all. Let me just jump to that definition. We have, well, basically, what are we asking for? Likes, relationships, comments, follower list, public content, or basic. Now we want all. Okay, now let's just jump back, and if we are completing with success, then we are hitting this completion with true and an error nil. If there is an error, then the completion is false, and we are providing the error too. So that's that, and pretty simple, right? So let's see how that goes. Okay, we are building successfully. Great. Let's log into Instagram. We are taken to our login screen. Okay, we can go back if we wish. Let's do that again. And let's type in our username or email or phone number. Okay, let's log in now and save your login info. Not now. And we are basically popped to the root view controller, and this is it. Of course, because we are not fetching anything just yet, all we have is the navigation items tab bars. Okay, we have logout, a refresh. As you know, the logout already works. The refresh doesn't work. It says just refreshing here. Let me just make this here. There we go. And in the show comments, show likes, nothing really happens. Now let's jump into that, because in the profile view controller, again, that is inheriting from our collection view controller. This collection view controller is basically in a collection view, and that comes from Collection Kit. Go ahead and take a look at my videos on Collection Kit. They will be released soon, really soon, this month in the Christmas calendar tutorial series. So go ahead and take a look at that, and you will find out what this provider is and so on. We won't go into this because it is out of scope of the tutorial. So let me go back to our profile view controller, and let's start off with the view will appear. Yeah, we have done that, And here we have our view did load, where we are setting up our navigation bar items, notification center observers. You will find out basically these are triggered when certain things happen in our app. Go ahead and take a deeper look in the code. Okay, and we are setting up our provider. Then we are fetching our data. Okay, let me just go all the way up and start from the top. Here we have our, and maybe make this a little bit larger. Here we have our notification names that we are going to use. Count type is likes and comments. That is because we want to change between the numbers that are shown on the images. Okay, the count type is first set up as likes. Okay, now let's talk about all these two. Instagram media list, basically that is a list of the posts or images, whatever you would like to call them. I like to call them media, and that is why it is called Instagram media list, and it is set to an empty array. Now, Instagram user, that is an Instagram user. Again, this comes from the Swift Instagram API library, and it is set to optional because we might not have an Instagram user at the moment. Okay, now we set up our provider elements for section 1. Again, this is a collection kit stuff. Go ahead and take a look at the videos if you are interested. But basically what we need to set up is a data source, a view source, and a size source. Now the data source is like the data that we want to pump into the collection view controller. The view source is what the data is on a specific cell, and the size source is of course the size of the cell. Now let's take a look at the first one, and that is the data source. And we are creating an array data source with the data Instagram media list. Now this array data source also comes from collection kit, and of course we are adding this Instagram media list. Of course at first this will be an empty array, so nothing will be shown, but we will be showing some images when the data comes in, and that is where those notification names will come in. Now let's talk a little bit about the view source. Now the view source is the image cell, and this closure view source again comes from collection kit, and the image cell is the view, and the data is of type Instagram media. Now that is what will be let's say fetched into that image cell, and here we have on the view a populate with data, and the data of course comes from this data, and it is missing, so let's fix that. Let's go into the image cell, and as you can see I have commented out because Instagram media wasn't inside on the starter project, so let me just comment that out. And let's talk a little bit about this. So we are populating our view, and we are inside the cell with this Instagram media. Now this Instagram media has some images and standard resolutions URL. Now this is the URL to our image. So we are creating a URL session data task with this URL, and we get back our data. If we do have that, we are creating an image and adding it to our image view. This image view is basically stretching all the way to the edges of our cell, and we are calling it on the main thread because we are in a URL session. Of course we need to resume this task. Okay, what else? We want to get the likes count and the comments count. Now, if the count type, if you remember, we have set it to likes, and we can change this. If it is likes, then we are showing on the count label the count of the likes. Otherwise, we are showing the count of the comments. And that is it for our image cell. Let's go back and maybe hit build here, so this may go away. Yeah, correct? And now let's take a look at the size source. Now this is pretty simple because we want to create these 3 images grid cells, and we are taking the views frame width. We are subtracting 2 pixels out of it, and then we are dividing this by 3. Now why these 2 pixels? That is because we want to add 1 pixel, that white line between the images, and I will show you how you can add those to our collection kit collection view controller later down below. Okay, we are at the view did load already, and here we have our fetch data. We will talk about that in just a moment. We are setting up our navigation bars, and we have our change count type bar bottom item, and that is for showing the comments. Now we want to have this outside. As you can see, the logout bar bottom item and the refresh bar bottom item are created in the setup nav bar items, so they are out of scope for other functions, but this change count type bar bottom item needs to be set up here as a lazy var, because we want to set the title from show comments to show likes and back. So that is why we are creating it here, instantiating it here. Okay, let's just scroll down. We are adding it to the left bar bottom item and the right bar bottom items, all of these. And we are setting up our notification observers. Now, let's talk about these, because this is quite important. Notification name, reload media UI. Now, whenever we fetch these new, let's say, new media, then we need to refresh the data sources data. And what we can do now is just comment this out and set the data sources data to be the Instagram media list. If you recall, this was set to an empty array at first, but now the data source data is set to whatever we get set into that Instagram media list array, and the collection view will reload automatically. Okay, when we want to reload the header UI, we just simply load the collection views, reload the data on it. And we want, when the notification name reload navigation bar UI, well, basically this is called when we fetch the user data and we do already know the username. And in the user info, we are going to add this username, and here we are going to unwrap it as a string and set the navigation item title to the username. Well, basically the top center. Okay, now setup provider. This is called in the view did load. Let me just comment out, and I really hope that I am not that fast on explaining. Okay, let me just go back. This is basic collection kit stuff. Okay, we are creating a basic provider with a data source, a view source, and a size source that we have created up there. Then we are creating a flow layout with a spacing of 1 pixel. That is the 1 pixel that is between the post images. Next up, we create a section provider, and it will be a compose provider with 1 section only. Again, I will go into detail when I release the collection kit tutorial series. Now again, here we have our profile header, and in the profile header, again, we need to create this populate with self Instagram user, and let me just show you where this is created. Let's go to our profile header, and again, let's just scroll all the way down and comment out this populate function. Let me just take this, and it's quite a lot, but again, we are going to take a look at it in detail. It's a little bit hard. There we go. Okay, so we are populating it with an Instagram user. Again, in the collection, what was its name again? In the profile view controller, we already have this Instagram user. So we grab guard and let our Instagram user, it could be an optional, maybe we do not get an Instagram user, and we basically grab our user name. And as I told you earlier, we create a user info with this username and fire a post of our notification for our notification name reload navbar UI with this user info. Basically, we are sending it to the navbar. Next up, we want to fetch our profile picture, and we have here a profile picture, and that is a URL. So we are creating a task that is a URL session data task, of course with this URL, and once we get back that data, we create an image and we dispatch queue main async our profile image views image. Well, basically this adds that profile image on the top left corner of our screen. Of course, don't forget to resume this task because it will not complete, it will not start. Next up is the full name text, and Instagram user.fullname is that. Pretty simple. Now here we needed to let unwrap our bio and website because those are optional, pretty self-explanatory. Again, here the counts, the Instagram user counts are optional, so we are unwrapping that. And here we have some sort of logic. What we could do is simply add this new post count, new follower count, and new following count from the counts media, counts followed by, and the counts followed, and we are simply going to add those to our labels text. Now that is what we could do, but we want to have that calculation of how many, let's say, users did we gain and so on. So we first of all, we are storing our we are grabbing first of all our old post counts and followers and following counts and from our user defaults, and of course the keys are pretty straightforward. Now we want to check if we do have an increase in the post or a decrease. And that is why we want to set the post count as the new post count minus the old post count. Hope that really makes sense. Now, if the new post count is greater than the old post count, then we should add a positive before the post count, even if it is 0. Otherwise, the post count will be set as the negative, let's say -2. The same goes for the followers count and the following count. Now finally, we want to save the new post count for the key of old post count because we want to use this on the next fire up of our app. And that is it for this profile header file. Let's go back to our profile view controller. Let's just scroll down, hit a build so we may see this error go away. Great. Now let's just scroll down. We are adding this header, the compose provider, and to our header composer and the provider, and we are setting the header to be not sticky. Okay, let me just show you what is up next, and that is to fetch the user and fetch the media. First of all, we are going to fetch the user. Let me just comment that out. And as you can see, if we do get back an error, we just return. We guardle unwrap our Instagram user. This is just for safety issues. And with that Instagram user, we add that, again, with this Instagram user that we guarded unwrapped, we add that to our Instagram user that is all the way up here. There we go. Okay, let's just scroll down. That's it. Now we want to make a post for the notification name reload header UI because we have already added all of the information in the header. Now we need to reload the collection view so it refreshes the data. Okay, now again, fetch user isn't found just yet, so let me comment out this function. Now what this does is fetches the user from the Instagram API. Again, the Instagram API is from the Swift Instagram library, and we are calling it upon ourselves. And when it is a success, then we do get back an Instagram user, and we complete with that because we are not handling this. We are handling this here in the fetch current user function. If there is an error, we complete with that error. Okay, the same goes basically for the fetch current media. What we do have here is a count, and yeah, as I told you earlier, 20 seems to be the limit for our fetch count, but hey, we added a count here. Maybe you just want to fetch 3. Okay, so let me just comment this out and explain what's going on here. The same thing is with the errors and the Instagram media list. We want to return if there's something wrong, and we add this Instagram media list to the Instagram media list that we have provided in on the file. Okay, and of course we want to reload the media UI this time. Okay, let's uncomment this one because we do have an error here. And again, we are fetching our recent media from our Instagram API, recent media from user self. The count is the count that we have just added. Upon success, we do get back a media list and we complete with that. Upon failure, we complete with a nil for the media list and an error. Okay, and I believe, yep, that is it. We still need to handle the refresh, and here we will test a little bit so you may see. We will simulate some dummy let's say following counts and so on, but we will talk about that in just a moment. And we are at the bottom of our file, so let me just scroll up and build and run for now and see the whole app come to life and in action. So there we go. We have fetched all of our posts and it says 804. Let's show our comments. Great. Show likes again. Let me just scroll down. There we go, 20. And here are my followers, following, and posts. Let's refresh now. It says refreshing. Of course, nothing changed since I have loaded the app, so we can not see any changes. And here is my profile image, my full name, bio, and website link. So pretty awesome. Now all of these are saying 0, so let's test it out. Let's see if let's say on the last launch of our app there were only 0 posts, 0 old followers, and 0 following. Okay, so what I will do is just simply comment this in, and on the fetch data I will just comment that out. So let's build again. And now I will tap on the refresh button, and this should basically add here plus 834 and so on. So let's click on refresh, and yes, indeed it does that. So let's say I just gained 11,575 new followers since I last opened this app. Of course, if I did lose some, then this will be a minus. So let's check that out. Let me just see on the followers count. Let's say if I had 20,000. Okay, let's build that now. And let's refresh. And of course, I have lost 8,425 followers. So again, comment this out and let the fetch data function do its stuff on the refresh bar button item. Okay, that is it for this tutorial. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit that notification bell. Now, it is your turn. Go ahead and comment down below what use cases can you think of using this Swift Instagram API. I am really eager to find out your opinion. Now, that is it for me today, and I hope I will see you in the next one.